Hey everyone, my name is Joe Ramstead and I'm a student. I'm in agricultural education, really excited about this first Tech Byte about teacher organization. So today I want to share a little bit about Google Classroom and how that can impact our organization as teachers, but also help our students stay organized in their classes as well. So to get started, I put together a little bit of a roadmap of what I'm going to be covering here today. So first, I'm going to describe the purpose and principles of the Google Classroom platform. Then we'll identify the hardware and gear necessary to utilize Google Classroom. Then we'll provide a brief overview of the features and benefits of Google Classroom. Then we'll apply potential uses to my particular content area, which is ag, food, and natural resource science education. And lastly, we'll suggest a potential plan for implementation and integration into the classroom. And lastly, I actually started a Google Classroom account, so I'll walk you through how to use Google Classroom as well in a nutshell. So let's get started. So let's say we want to use Google Classroom. It's an excellent tool for teachers to stay organized and have their lives together essentially on their computers and help their students do the same. I first used it when I was a senior in high school in my college in the school Spanish class, and it really helped my teachers stay organized, but also us as students. So our teacher was able to send us email notifications and assignment descriptions through our computers, which helped us facilitate a dialogue between teachers and students, but also looking at a larger scale as well. I know sometimes it can be overwhelming having a bunch of different classes using Moodle or Edmodo or Canvas or Google Classroom, but if we make the switch to Google Classroom, not only is it a free platform, but it also allows for communication, professional communication between students and teachers, facilitated through that application. So here are some just general benefits. We'll touch on these a little bit later as well, but it allows for teachers to maintain files for all of their classes in one specific location, and also they can go paperless because it syncs directly to the Google Drive that the teacher has and has a Google Drive folder. You can also receive notifications and messages directly from students, so you don't have to give out your cell phone number or any personal email accounts. Everything is directly streamlined through the application. And lastly, provide organized feedback for students as well. So got gear. We are going to need a lot of different types of equipment in order to actively facilitate Google Classroom within our classes. But with the shift that many schools are making towards integrating technology into their classrooms already, it's a pretty feasible application that we can use in our classrooms. So some potential hardware and gear possibilities that we could use include an iPad, cell phone, laptop, or computer. And specifically with an iPad or a cell phone, students can actually download a Google Classroom app and work on their coursework directly from their phone. And I know it's not fair to assume that all students have a cell phone, but many do, and those who do not have access to a cell phone can use a computer possibly at the school, which goes directly into my challenge. So equitable on-demand access. Not all of our students are fortunate enough to have Wi-Fi connection or a cell phone or a laptop. So as teachers, if we choose to implement Google Classroom or any other type of technology, it's really important to be intentional in making sure that all students have access to working on their coursework wherever it may be. So whether we be a one-to-one school and provide students with access to an iPad or computer, or providing students with an opportunity to come into class early or before the school starts at the end of the day to work on their coursework, just to make sure that all students have the ability to learn and grow on the digital community is essential. So that's something that I'm going to work towards when I'm a teacher as well, when I do implement Google Classroom. So some features at a glance, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but here's some more in depth. So after evaluating it and taking a look at it, both as a student and as a teacher, in terms of organizational resource, I would give it a 9 out of 10. So one of the best features of Google Classroom is that there's a code security. So when I'm a teacher, I have a code that I can give my students to sign up for the class. They only have access to that code, and they can enter it and into their computer and sign up to be part of the class. That's the only way they can get added to the classes, if they have that code. So it's a great way to ensure that not random people are signing up for your class. Secondly, paperless and syncs to Google Drive. So over on the right-hand side of the screen here, we see a desk, and that's probably what my desk is going to look like as a teacher. I know that's what it looks like down at the end of the hall in my room right now, but being paperless is actually a great way to save resources in the trees, but also making sure that we are conducting ourselves in a way that models expectations for our students. You know, if we have a messy desk, that's going to create a messy work environment for our students as well. And we're modeling an expectation that we can be unorganized. So by being paperless and storing everything on Google Drive for students to access is really important. And I'm going to work really hard, especially in student teaching this spring and when I'm a teacher in the future, to make sure that I am organized so that I set that expectation, that precedent for my students. Thirdly, grading and feedback is a lot more streamlined and easy to do on the Google Classroom application and allows us to be more organized as teachers as well. We can upload specific rubrics for students to follow and then grade and assign feedback over email. Fourthly, it's a great opportunity for students to ask and answer questions. So you could post trivia questions, or students can just ask general questions about the course content as well to really engage with their peers and answer their questions. I'm currently teaching assistant for an animal science course that's using Packback, which is also an incredible application that I'm sure maybe I'll have the opportunity to share about a little bit later this semester. But Packback is essentially a tool where students can ask and answer questions and get credit for asking really good questions or providing substantial feedback or responses to their classmates. And this is something that we can do on Google Drive or Google Classroom for free, as long as we as teachers are willing to moderate that. So again, it's a free, excellent resource to stay organized. Next, communicating with students is easy. As I mentioned earlier, all communication happens directly through the app or email. So professional, high grade, quick notifications. Another great tool is a central hub. So again, it syncs to your Google Drive, so all of your materials can be stored directly in Google Classroom, which is an essential and great opportunity. And last, parent access. I think this is one of the coolest features of the resource as a whole. So sometimes as teachers, we struggle to communicate our brand, but also what assignments and expectations we have for our students. And sometimes we can use our parents back at home for a resource to help facilitate that conversation and ensure that students are getting their work done. So we can give parent access to the parents of our students so that they can follow up and check in on class assignments, so they can nag them about their assignments and things at home as well. And lastly, my only critique of this platform, why I give it a 9 out of 10, is that you have to have a Gmail account in order to set up a Google Classroom. And on that note as well, in order to set up an actual physical classroom, when you check the agreement box, you're agreeing to the fact that you are a teacher at a school, and if you're adding students to the classroom, that you are adding from the same domain. So if I'm teaching at any town school, I can't add anyone from a neighboring school district to my classroom because they have to be from the same domain. So if Google Classroom could find a way to just provide like AOL users or other users to use Google Classroom, I think that would be very helpful. But again, even the U of M is a Google university, so many schools are switching to Google because it's an excellent resource and platform. So, but that's my only critique. It's a great resource. I give it a 9 out of 10, something I'm looking forward to using in the future. But uses for ag, food, and natural resources specifically. So I personally am a huge fan of bell ringers and trivia, so I want to post trivia questions and activities for my students to think on as they walk to class or when they're in the classroom. Give them some credit, maybe participation points, or just have them test their knowledge and see what their classmates know as well. Also, secondly, using it as a platform to ask students questions. I mentioned Packback earlier, but this is a free tool. Packback costs money. So this is a great way for students to ask and answer each other's questions, and you as the teacher can moderate that. It also makes learning more fun and social, and a great environment for students to really support one another and be excited about their learning inside and outside of the classroom, which leads into my last point. As long as students have access to a computer, tablet, or resource that can connect to the internet, they can extend learning outside of the classroom and make it a lot more powerful of a tool. Additionally, because I want to use those features in my classroom, I also hope to be an FFA advisor as well. So FFA is a premier leadership organization that provides students with opportunities to gain knowledge in agriculture, food, and natural resources, and it's connected directly to the agriculture classroom community. And I want to provide my students with an opportunity to join FFA as students. And as a teacher, I can create a classroom on Google Classroom for students to communicate with one another, and I can also update my parents about upcoming activities within my chapter. So if I have a career development event, competition that's coming up, I can send a notification out to my students and their parents saying the forestry team is going to be going to the University of Minnesota on October 10th to compete in the Invitational. Here's a permission slip. So it's a great way to facilitate that communication and make sure that all parties are informed, which in this day and age is very important. So how to use it? Here's some just general steps to success that we should consider. So first, we have to ensure that all students have internet access, and that's becoming a little bit easier, but it's still a challenge that many are facing, so we need to be intentional and strategic about that. Secondly, ensure students have high school Gmail accounts. So again, that's another challenge as well, but again, many schools are switching to Gmail, so it's becoming very feasible. Third, create a Google Classroom, which is very simple to do. I just did it this morning, and very easy tool to test out, utilize. And then fourthly, you can distribute the security code. So it tells you exactly right when you create your Google Classroom, this is your security code. You can send it to your students, and then you give it to them in class or put it on your course syllabus, whatever you want to do, and give it to them. They punch that code in and they're automatically enrolled in your course. Then of course, adding content to your Google Classroom. Another cool feature is, say I teach animal science first semester and my curriculum second semester is going to be pretty close to similar. I can just copy that class over so I don't have to re-upload PowerPoints or activities to my new Google Classroom. And then lastly, helping students troubleshoot along the way. Of course, it's technology. People are going to run into troubles. Wi-Fi is going to crash. Just being there as a resource to help students go through and navigate is an excellent opportunity and something we should be strategic about. So now I want to provide a quick overview of Google Classroom and what it looks like as a user. So I'm logged in as a teacher right now on my personal account. Again, my University of Minnesota account didn't let me make a teacher account because I'm not a teacher at the University of Minnesota. So this is essentially like the security thing that I was mentioning earlier. So I created Intro to Ag, Food, and Natural Resources Section 1, have 0 students. That's totally okay, but once they get that code, they can go ahead and join. So Intro to AF&R. So I did a couple of things on here to explore. First, I posted an assignment called the Dairy Foods Lab. If I so wanted to, I could edit the assignment, make it worth more points, email my students some feedback or information. I could add a rubric in the instructions section or make a comment as well. Going back to the home page. I also wanted to give my class an announcement. So I wanted to share an opportunity for extra credit. So if students made an infographic or a poster sharing fun facts that they learned from this cheese documentary, I'd give them some extra credit points in the grade book. So this essentially would give students an email notification that I posted in the class, and then they could go ahead, watch the cheese documentary from Modern Marvels, do the extra credit assignment, and be on their merry way. And then I also just played around with this. So trivia question, what cheese is most popular in the United States? So you can make these questions worth no points or 1 point or 1,000 points, however you want to do it, and Google will actually track it for you. So you could have students select any of these options, and then you can take a class poll. So like if you had a controversial question like, are genetically modified organisms something that you support? And you can make it an anonymous poll for students to answer, and then you can see how the class feels. But in this case, this is a trivia question. Fun fact, it is mozzarella. It's the most popular cheese in the United States. So I could then have students take this poll at the beginning of the class period and say they thought American cheese was the most popular. I could provide some insight that mozzarella is the most popular and use that as an interest approach to starting the class period off. So these are just a couple of the excellent tools that are available on Google Classroom. I highly recommend checking it out, especially as a young teacher. As we all know, staying organized is a very important task of a teacher. We have parents, students, and the community that we have to communicate with about our program and be really good ambassadors for our programs. So using Google Classroom is just one way to help stay organized as a teacher, but also ensure that other people along the way are organized.